2, 3 countdown. 2, 3, 1. Welcome everybody back to Seed Shot Call episode 3, episode 4, whatever you want to say it. I am your host Goose. Now with my new co-host, we have finally replaced the person who will not be named. It is a Thin Irish Dude, or Irish if you are familiar with him. And today we have an actual active coach. It is Mossy from C9. How you doing, dog?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So Irish, I think you had some questions to start us off today.
Yeah, just a kind of boilerplate, super basic question. How did you get into Siege in the first place, and how did you find yourself as an analyst?
That's a great question. I think about 3 years ago, I was really interested in the sing. I grew up playing it on console, then I swapped over to PC, and I really wanted to get into competitive sing because I saw all the like OGs like Canadian, when especially when they're SI, like that was incredible. And I originally reached out to like couple people I knew. I started off on that T4 team. A guy named Davidonomics. He was like where I started off with, and then from that point, kind of like over time, I got in contact with another guy named Tenacity. He was actually the coach for Aqualix. If you guys remember that old
Oh
seal
yeah,
with
yeah,
Gasher and
Penguin,
uh,
yeah.
Discovery.
Penguin
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
short moment.
yeah. So I got on that team. Now, actually, before that, I joined Nocturne with
Oh yeah.
Exo, Sexys, if you remember that.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty old. And then I joined Aqualix, and then from that, I went to Karn,
Yeah.
the king himself, and did a couple stages with him. So, and then once we won Element One, that was kind of like when I got my friend to join to like Pro League. So we didn't go Pro League after winning Element One. We ran it back in Element 2. That was kind of like my opportunity. Because after Element 2, I went to LG. And then you had the LG run throughout the stage with Hat. And then you had it with SERP when we made EWC. So that's kind of a good breakdown of my past.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Did you always know that you wanted to be in the specific role you are now, or was it kind of something that you just fell in love and you kind of like understood? Oh, hey, I can actually do this.
Yeah, so I'm in school right now for economics. I was an accounting major.
Oh.
So I have a good background in like analytics and throughout like my the past time I worked at
Mm-hmm.
a family office, which is like an accounting firm for an internship. So I always wanted to like use that skill set through my education and into the competitive scene, and that was kind of like the easiest path for me from like from my knowledge with like Excel and like making deliverables and like presentations and like team culture. All
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of shifted pretty well towards like the competitive scene.
Yeah.
What is your role specifically as an
Yeah.
analyst? Because it's kind of like up in the air for a lot of people what exactly analysts do, and I know that Fett specifically has talked about what people like Froshi did, which was like, day before game day, going through all the VODs, finding like pre-placed drones. Was it more like grunt work stuff like that, and being able to, counter people with just going through VODs and VODs and VODs and VODs? Or are you more of the like team culture, actually doing semi-coaching stuff? Because I understand that you're assistant coach now.
Yeah, so with this current roster, I'm more of an assistant coach role. Depending on how the team is and what they want from the analysts, it can vary. Like I didn't mention, first you did a lot of VODs and stuff like that, but some teams might like to have like a good data set of like scrims, game days, and then they can view progression on that. They might see like this week we did really well on let's say bank and club, and then the week after we kind of slipped down, so we might look back into the VOD and through the stats we might find out, this one site CEO we're losing it against like even teams, so why don't we take a look at that? But at least for that's where I did most on LG. Other like internal and external analytics, pulling bots, pulling like data, figuring out what teams prefer what site rotations and what maps.
Yeah.
But I think for this current team, I'm less on the like internal data, like for scrims. I'm more focused on like the prep, like the external, like pulling VODs, figuring out why teams might be good on this map, figuring out player tendencies, figuring out, region tendency. That's another thing. Like
Yeah.
there's a difference between like in-stage play and then the international play. because you might find out that some regions prefer some maps. A good example is like NA is not really that good on Bank. We look like a team like BDS who just completely dominate on that. So understanding how like different regions have their own preferences can be a good thing to know, especially if you're prepping for 20 different teams in this case.
Yeah, I think one of my main problems, and I think Kandro Kenny said it on a podcast with Caster, is that it is sometimes hard to do map ban phases, and I'll see some series where I'm like, this team lost. Why are they going to this map? Especially against, I think I spoke about with Happy and Irish on why so many teams would take Virtus Pro to the same map series after series. In my opinion, I think
Happy
a
got
lot.
so mad about that.
I get
Happy
mad about
got
it
so
too,
mad.
because there's some series where it's like if you just don't take them to certain maps, you win the series. So I think it's good to hear importance about that. Also, I guess we now know who to blame if you guys win a map ban phase, but I don't think you guys will.
Yeah, I think an important thing to understand about like at least international playing, I have a lot of experience with that at EWC, even though we played a couple games, but just the whole theory behind it is a lot of these teams will like to trial, let's say that maybe the top 3 maps because they're from a different region, which means they might play different or they were not used to just a different culture. So, you might take example, let's say PSG Talent, right? Let's say they're really good in club, but they dominate club in their region. So how good is their club? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And then it's also like a lot of NA teams will trial like their best maps in international events. Like a good example is like DZ SSG always playing Cafe International, but not playing as much during the stage, right?
Yeah.
So people always cooking up something. They're trying to figure out, how the teams play. Because if you only scrimming like NA region, at least for us, you don't really understand how like maybe Brazil or like EU or like MENA, or, like Japan, how their kind of overall seeing is. So it's kind of another component versus then just an NA seeing.
And one last question that I had for you. You worked with a little bit that C9 BC major winning core.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of very deep strategy that comes from that core, coming from Gunnar and Houghton having very vocal voices, as well as just being under the tutelage of Fett, who's kind of exploded into this informational wealth of knowledge for the scene. What did you learn from even just that short stint of playing with them, as far as things like team culture or things like how they approach the game?
I think the biggest thing about that team is just the wealth of knowledge and experience that they've had, from Hot and Cool to Gunner, even Diffuser, Gavini, and Spirits, the best field player in NA, maybe all of Siege right now. So having that, especially coming from like LG, where we were considered the underdogs, we made EWC when only 3 teams can make it, which is probably pretty insane. So going from that like shift to like Beast Coast was definitely interesting. I think maybe a bit challenging for me, especially because all those guys have all the experience in the world, and the only event that that core made was EWC, so it's kind of taking some time to adjust and kind of follow their lead more so. But all those guys are extremely talented, and they just have such a good wealth of knowledge, and they're also a lot of layering reps as well.
Yeah.
So they're very like composed. I think it's like a big thing, being like composed and like they've already been through their motions. So definitely learned a lot from those guys.
Yeah, so now moving on to C9 Beast Coast, to now just C9. There is no more Beast Coast, it's just C9.
Yeah.
A completely different team, I think, even from your LG stint going around with the old C9 roster. You have essentially the old core of T2 makers, adding players like Dream into it. So I just kind of wanted to get your understanding of how this team came together. Because in my opinion, it is a really interesting team in a very good way.
Thank you. So like you said, it's a core of makers with Packer, Giddy, and Kobulax, but just beefed up. We got Dream, we got Silent from LG, and then Dream coming off a top 4 SI performance with that Unwanted team. So I think fundamentally what we wanted was that kind of core, because me and Vivid have both worked with Packer and Giddy before in Silent. So
Yeah.
starting from there, it just kind of came into the roster shuffle where like people are making moves, so you kind of have to wait. You know, you have certain teams where it's like we really want this guy, but he just got signed, so now we have to go to this guy. I think we ended up pretty happy with it. We're really happy to get Dream. Dream's an amazing player, an amazing, rock for our team. His wealth of knowledge and his overall composure. Plus, he's just like one of the best, coolest guys ever. Like, if you ever talk to Dream Mitch, he's always in a good mood. He's always down to have fun time. So, and then for Silent, George, we've always known how talented he was. He had a great stage, even though their team didn't perform well, and we were like, yeah, with those two guys, we can win. So, I think from that fundamental base of that Maker's core with Kobe, Packer, and Giddy, who made what Montreal, they qualified that, and then they went to M80. Packer did, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So having he would have what an SI and a so everyone on our team has LAN experience, which is really good. So I think that also helps as well.
When my interview with Mint, as he worked with Dream, I asked this question. I also saw it on Irish's notes, so I think you know what I'm talking about, Irish. But I'm gonna let you ask him the question about Dream.
How did like you built basically kind of like the best, and like this isn't a dig. Like you guys built the best budget roster possible. Getting a core of people who have played together, keeping Silent, who in my opinion was the strongest player of that LG roster.
Yeah.
But of all of those players, it is that kind of pulling from what's available. How did you guys even get Dream? Like that's the one player that the community as a whole has kind of said for years that this guy is like one of the best supports in NA. So building a kind of budget team, putting together players who have worked together, having a lot of LAN experience, but also putting together gunners. Dream doesn't really fit that bill of a budget player with LAN experience as much as many of the others because he is extremely experienced and he's just one of the best. How did you guys get in contact with him and kind of get him on board with the team?
Yeah, that's a good question. So once we had like a 3 core, we kind of saw was on the market. We from the side wanted Dream, like you said, he's extremely talented. I think it came down to Dream's decision, where he felt like he would be the most impactful. He liked the culture that we had, and I also feel like I know Packer and Dream have a really close relationship, so I think that helped as well. I think Dream liked being in a setting where he he felt comfortable in, and I feel like that's where he saw like there's a young group of guys. I have friends on this team. We can make something happen, even though it might not be like the highest paying job. There's other stipulations depending. I know some teams have team houses, and that can kind of come into effect. But I think Dream saw a team, saw a good amount of potential, saw where he would not only be useful, but like extremely encouraged because of his wealth of knowledge. So I think it came down to that.
Yeah, so I think Packer specifically has really rotated through a lot of roles throughout his career from T2 to T1. Dream also has played his fair share of roles, whether or not, his team is hot and he needs to start shooting. So my question is specifically to the mechanics of the team, if you can say, again, I don't want you to reveal too much information going into a T1 event, but like how exactly does Dream and Packer's role kind of tie together? Because they play a similar role at times.
Yeah, for sure. I think throughout that building phase and this past couple months, we've been kind of figuring out where we want people to lie, where we want the pieces to kind of fit. I know Packer. Packer is a very passionate guy. I'm sure all of you guys know that.
Yeah.
Very passionate and vocal. So I think him, at least at the top of the comms in that list, I think is really helpful. And then having Dream, who's someone who's, I'd say a bit more composed in a way. So I think having him calling as well has been really impactful from the back end of things. But both of them have been extremely helpful in kind of seeing our vision. And I think they actually really work well together.
Did you have anything else, Irish?
Well, I kind of had a joke. A joke question.
Let's hear it.
Are you guys prepared to handle the heat from Drip Boolin as you guys bring Giddy into T1?
I don't know, man. Honestly, the biggest haters in my career have always been Reddit. They're the D1 hater, and then whenever like you play a standard lobby, you have another hater, some random guy, and then drip bullying. So hopefully we don't crumble under drip bullying. He's a very powerful and all-knowing man. So
Yeah, I mean, it's
Do you? Oh, also another question. Do you guys have a manifesto for your team?
I don't think we have a manifesto right now, but we can work on that.
I see. I had this entire serious question in mind, and then just building off of that's gonna be near
Oh, shoot.
impossible.
No. You can.
No, it's fine.
What
It's
was
fine.
what was your question?
My question was, you said you know work with Becker. You've been friends with him for a while. So after his experience, I know he also talked about after his wildcard stint, like 2 years ago now, he understood he had to mature, that he needed to learn how to fall into that IGL role. So I just wanted to get your raw, like, personal opinion, just how he's grown individually as a player from last and then up until at this point now.
Yeah, that's another good question. I remember Packer from when we won Karn and Element, so I think that was the last time I officially teamed with him. So from that Packer to like this Packer, it's leaps and bounds. The amount of growth that he's had, the amount of knowledge he's obtained, he's been really able to kind of put that, to good use within our team. He has a wealth of information. He has a couple lang events, so I feel like over time, as you gain those experience, as join different teams, you kind of mature a bit. So I think he's done a great job with that.
Yeah, I think overall this team is about growth. You have Packer, you have Giddy, who's finally broken the curse of being gate kept from T1. You also have Kobe, who was essentially the hottest star from T2 from console up until Stompin' now. And then I don't want to say lukewarm because I think that is disrespectful, but going into DZ, I don't think anybody kind of knew it would play out that way. I think without being rude, I don't think his role was presented the best way. I don't think he was given the best opportunity. But I think this team now, for every single individual player, exactly like Beast Coast did all the way back at the beginning of last year, the idea is to just make sure you enable everybody to their fullest potential.
Yeah, I agree completely. One thing about that is like when you're building a team, you're picking players. You want to pick people where they feel comfortable with and like where they're best at. I think it's kind of hard sometimes when like these teams pick up players and they don't play like let's say their natural role and they get moved shipped around to maybe like a flex or like a support role. They might not feel as comfortable and therefore maybe they might not perform as well. So if you're like as part of the coaching staff, your goal is to make sure to have all your players perform at their best and making sure they're comfortable. So you can really utilize them as best as they can.
Yeah, so now moving on to the boot camp and prep phase. This is specifically to the reload event because we've never had anything like this whatsoever. So a lot of things are going to change, especially since it's very different from EWC, just both in how it operates and it being an invite only system. So specifically, again, because you're, to my knowledge, not playing on the Siege X build, so you're going into this kind of just guessing on what exactly you need to prepare for. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on exactly what you're doing to prepare for, I guess, essentially almost a brand new game.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a challenge trying to navigate that. For sure, you're playing on a build that won't be at the event. So I think trying to get as much as you can from your practice, from the scrims. One thing that I believe has been shown is the ban phase and how they're gonna change that up. So I know some teams have been trying that out, been practicing with that. I think the best thing you can only do is like um, practice as much as you can, and then once you get to boot camp, then just grind everything out there. But the maps are gonna be the same. The only difference really is gonna be like visual.
Yeah.
Some maps like Cafe are gonna have a repel change and the hop out change, so that can be. You kind of have to be careful when you're doing that, on this build. Where it's like, hey guys, like, can't do that in CJX. Let's make sure we're having a good practice here. So.
Mm-hmm. So you're just going into these scrims saying like, hey, you can't jump out this window anymore. You can,
Yeah.
but you're not going to be able to.
Just being a bit more cautious,
yeah.
Understanding how, let's say, the ban phase might alter things for both halves. Been playing around with that, but overall, just you play with what you have. What we have is a build right now. So until then, standard, you know.
Saying what you gotta do.
And yeah, with boot camp and prep, and specifically counter-stratting teams, this is, obviously with the partnership system and with teams changing around so much, even like a good chunk of the teams that are at Reload have yet to make a full official announcement of their roster. How do you even really prepare?
So I guess what you want to do is you take what you know first, right? So we know that Falcon's roster is really BDS. We know FaZe is going to be the same. We know Fury is going to be the same. We know W7M, DZ, SSG, right? And then you kind of work from there. So that M80 roster, which is pretty much 4/5 of that Beast Coast roster that made it. And then you have other teams like the Loud roster, which is E1 plus Raza Academy. So you kind of can pick and choose of like where you want to start down that list, but you basically start with what you know, and then you build off of that. And as information comes on, and you can see where you can pull. But you're right. There's a lot of teams that are being newly built. Ours, for example, I believe that new BDS team's different.
Yeah, it's like Freck, Robbie,
Yeah.
Virtue, Lasmo, and one more, I think.
Yeah, and there's a couple other teams like that. I know Wildcard had 2 new players, and I think they have Justin as a coaching staff now. So
yeah, they have Dash and a T2 player from EU, to my knowledge.
yeah, Baby Shark.
Yeah, Baby Shark. Yeah,
Baby Shark.
I love the name. Honestly, I can't even. I actually love the name. But one thing that literally just popped in my head is that every other international event you've had, whether it be a major like with SI, you just had the major play before it. Going into majors, you have a stage of the NAL. So not only do you have CJX, but you don't have up-to-date VODs, which makes your job specifically even harder. And again, I think this is one of the events where I can't go out and say Falcons are going to lose or win, rather, or FaZe is going to repeat, because there are
they'll get second.
Or second again, yeah. I mean, maybe an entire new org with additional different kind of money, and on top of that, a new build that Siege probably will do it. But yeah, again, I just want to another more specific question about that is like, without that VOD prep, are you going in with the the gray face mentality, or is it just, are you trying to grab anything that you can get?
I think for that question, the primary thing is making sure at the end of the day our team is good, right?
Yeah.
We can do all the work on these other teams, but if our team isn't playing to the best way it can play, then what's the point? To having that at the forefront is going to be the most important thing. And then when it comes to, playing teams that we might not know anything, that could be an advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah.
Like that's the same case for teams looking at us, right? All the teams that we don't stream, they're like, who is this team? We've never seen them, play, a stage or a major before, so I think we're kind of in that position as well. So that can be advantage or disadvantage, and I think you kind of feel that out at this event.
Do you have anything else, Irish?
No, I had to like super basic. How have you been integrating Dream and Silent? But you've kind of already touched on that.
I gotcha. Okay, so we'll go into the Reload event specifically. So I know this is something that you probably can't say because it hasn't been fully revealed. But there's going to be a new ban system completely different to ranked. All that the public knows is that there's going to be more than just 2 bans for each side. So without forcing you to reveal too much without getting in trouble, what is your overall opinion, and what do you think it's going to really affect Siege with the new ban system?
I got the answer on this question, like you said. I will say it will be very interesting. I think people expect one thing and it's going to turn out to be another thing.
Okay.
I think it could be an element of strategy, but also could be maybe too complicated in a way. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think the good thing with this event is if something goes terribly wrong, like if we watch this event and it's like, wow, this is just horrible competition, they'd be like, okay, it's fine. It doesn't have effect on SI points, to my knowledge.
I don't think it does.
No, it has no effect on standing.
Okay, so yeah, so it's just money.
It's independent.
Okay, yeah. So again, it's an event where they can take it to the chin, like, okay, you know what, we can tweak this, we can fix this going into stage 1, which is so close in June, like right after May is crazy. But yeah, so now moving on to the systems that we do know, the cards. Actually, no. Before that, two-part question. One, are you guys training for 1v1s? And two, who is going to be the 1v1 to determine if you go home or stay?
A great question. Well, we have probably one of the best 1v1s in all of NA, Silent. So we're pretty confident if it comes to that, he'll bring us a dub. So, but I don't think we're actively training for it. I think we will later down the line.
Okay.
But I know he's just always been in those tourneys. He's always playing, so
Yeah.
he has a good background in the 1v1s.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those conditions where Ubisoft is going out of their way to bring in a casual audience. It's also something that no pro player really has trained for. Like, you're not going to have Canadian training against, like, Jinxie or Stompin for 1v1, so you're going to have to pick and choose. I think it brings more value to people. But yeah, so I just want to get your overall opinions on just the new system. I guess only for group stage, because to my knowledge, playoffs is relatively the same.
Yeah, so in terms of the overall format, I think the biggest thing to understand is Reload is there to promote Siege Racks, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, that's the biggest thing. That's why they're introducing like the card system, where like the 1v1, or I think there's a couple other cards where you can. There's a whole bunch of scenarios with that.
Yeah.
Also the format, how it's gonna be different in terms of like the bullets and how you can gamble that away. It's funny. We're like, oh, day one, we're gonna put all of our bullets on one team, and we're gonna win or we lose. We become bullet, So I think that's gonna be pretty fun. But it's just there to promote the game. It's something a little fun. There's a good amount of money in there.
Yeah.
It gives all these teams land experience.
Yeah.
Gives them all to play a game day format. And I think that's the biggest strength of any event is getting those game day reps, being able to see what's like under, flying down the travel, the whole shebang, right?
Yeah.
So when you go through that again, you're not too nervous, or you understand it a little bit more.
Going into the reload event, what's the team that you most want to be? Now, I was thinking your answer to this might be wild card because of Justin and Last Fire. But is there any team you are kind of putting a target on their back before and kind of saying, all right, this is the one that we want to beat. If we gamble everything away and lose, it'll be totally fine as long as we beat this one team.
Me personally, I think beating wild card would be pretty fun. I did that for Staff Hub. And then also I think W7M. I think that'd be a fun team. They knocked us out of EWC, so I don't forget that part. So, but overall, we're just excited to be there. There's a lot of great teams. I think it'd be really fun. There's also a lot of teams out there that usually don't make events, so I think it'd be a good time overall.
Yeah. I do want to one last question before we move on to me and Irish's favorite part of this podcast. If somebody wins this, will this be the bubble chip? Will this be the Mickey Mouse charm of Siege? Or do you think it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, an off-season show match?
Yeah, that's a good question because I know a lot of people are comparing it to the bubble, when the Lakers bubble. I think the biggest thing at the end of the day is two things you want to recognize. When everyone's at the learning event and booting up the game, they're playing to win no matter what.
Yeah.
Like who wants to fly 16 hours, have a layover, stay in Rio, and then leave in 2 days. No one wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's a component. The fact that we want to win at the end of the day. We want to compete, want to win. And this could be a prelude to or a measure of how people perform in the stage, or something like that. So that's also a factor. And the other factor is there's money in the line. I like money, so it'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have to see once it's all over.
Yeah.
Because I think there's gonna be a lot of good games. I think it's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah.
But also at the end of the day, as a competitor, you want to win no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of I have the expectation that people do it because they did it to BDS with all three of their EWC titles.
Yeah.
Irish, do you want to pull it up? Do you want to pull up our favorite
yeah.
bit? So we're gonna do a tier list of what teams. We'll do the three of us. We'll let you do most of the thinking because you probably know a lot more than us about what teams you expect to. I'm not 100% on the format, so we just did a general tier list of just teams, not exactly where you think they're gonna place. We'll just do from like best to like worst. And I think it's interesting because you can't exactly tell. So let's see. Did you pull it up?
Yeah, starting off with,
Okay, there we go.
I'm gonna pull up the rosters on my other screen as well.
Okay.
So we can, if we don't have any, like the last player of BDS is P4, so they kept 2 from Wolves and then built around that with Virtue, Robbie, and Freck, with the support staff of Wolves. So it's basically like 40% Wolves, and then with Virtue, Robbie, and Freck.
So first of all, let's just start off. Where are we gonna put C9? Where are you?
Oh,
gonna put
we're
your-
starting-
at the
Bird,
top,
Bird.
easy.
Okay.
At the top.
All right. Okay.
Top S tier.
Okay.
Bird.
I didn't know if you're gonna pull a spoil and put yourself getting grouped.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You don't want to jinx yourself. Yeah. You
No,
don't
I
want to
can't,
jinx
can't
yourself.
can't be getting farmed like that. No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So are we doing BDS next? Yeah, we'll do BDS. What do you think, Mossy? What do you think?
I'm thinking B tier. I think yet to be seeing
Yeah.
core kind of core of that wolf stack. So I think they're in a good middle ground.
Okay. Moving to
Perma-grouped APAC team. Happy's favorite. This will
This
will either hurt Happy's soul
or he's
make
gonna
him
love
very
you.
Happy.
You gotta choose wisely.
I'm
here.
thinking for CAG. I think a good C.
See?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you look at the total of all the teams. There's a lot of APAC teams that usually wouldn't make it to these events. So I feel like
Yeah.
they had a pretty decent side performance from it with everything said.
Yeah.
So I think they can be competitive.
So I'm trying to remember, just so we get in good. We'll just make D tier grouped. How many teams get grouped from the first stage? Is it like 8? 16? I don't know.
I actually don't.
Do you know, Mossy?
That's
Is that public information?
Oh, okay. So we're gonna have to do a little bit. Okay, so there's
we
20
could just,
teams.
We could just do like 4 per group, and then that
Yeah.
would even out.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Yeah, because I know it's like 20 teams, and there's only 2 phases. That's what was told to us, by the way. Again.
Got it.
Yeah, and one of the and the page on Wikipedia, I don't know if it's accurate, but the page has a playoffs single elim bracket as the phase 2.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll just do 4. Okay. So we got DZ next.
I think
Taking
DZ's
away-
always been a solid roster, solid
Yeah.
team. So I think like A, B.
Heard. I'll put them A right now just so we can.
Okay, yeah,
a little bit
we
of
can all
balance.
we can move it around. Okay, we got Elevate next. I mean,
I'm not too
deep
sure
one.
about
This is the one we don't even. I don't even think we know the roster for these guys.
Oh no, that's the Brazilian import team.
Oh wait.
Yeah, that's all Brazilian players. Yeah, look that one up. That one actually might be good to look at.
It just has all former players in there right now.
Okay.
It just has former players.
Okay, we'll just put them D then
With
because
none.
who knows. Okay.
Falcons. I think Falcons is always going to be a competitive team. Put that at S, easy.
Heard.
Okay.
FaZe also coming off
Vulnerable
a
chance,
win.
yeah.
S, easy.
Yeah.
Fair. B and
Uh,
K X also S.
I'm thinking maybe like a C tier.
See?
See, I
Yeah.
mean, okay. All right, I can live that.
All right. Fnatic.
Fnatic?
These guys are okay. Nope, I'm not gonna say that. These guys are an interesting team. Deepak, Jags, Sarks, Groovy, and Jaxu, with Sathis as the head coach and no other listed support staff.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you guys saw. I think they did well during the Malta Cyber Series.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
they
did
won
see
it
that.
though.
Yeah.
So I think they can be competitive. I put them at B.
B.
B? Okay.
Yeah.
Furia,
Furia,
yeah.
I put them at A. I think Furia is a solid A.
Yeah.
Fair.
G2.
G2. There are no announced changes, and I think the rumor for a little bit was that they were going to get Robbie, but obviously with him going to BDS, it
Yeah.
looks like right now there's no changes. Still Alamau, Doki, Uno, Blaz, and Loira, but no rumors, nothing. I literally have not heard a peep, which is weird.
Because I'm looking at the other teams. We still got Talon and Scars left, so we're gonna need a fourth for D. I might go G2D.
G2D.
What are your
I
thoughts
think
on
that's
that,
an interesting.
Mossy?
We can put them there. See
Okay.
what happens.
Yeah, we can always move it around once we get more
Heard.
teams down. Liquid.
Team Liquid. I don't think they have announced publicly.
No, they haven't.
who's
They dropped
replacing
Palu.
Lagonis and Palu.
Yeah.
So just Nesk, Resets, and Maya at the moment.
We have rumors, but we can't. We won't use that. So.
What are the rumors?
Um.
The completely unconfirmed and probably not happening.
I know Diaz is in there, and then an actual player who's like actively from another Brazil team. I forgot. Ask. It was Ask and Diaz.
Oh yeah, because Ask.
I mean, I don't know. I look at that roster. I look at their support staff. I don't think they're gonna go anywhere below D. So I think. B?
Did they move their? Yeah, I think they
Look
got rid of the
B.
coach.
Oh, they
think
did
that-
remove their coach too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm good with B. I like B.
Liquid B. Heard.
Yeah.
Loud. Yeah, the mostly Raza E1 with removing Flastry and putting in Daffodil?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm thinking not to be there. They had a good, I feel like a decent SI run.
Cool.
So. And then
M80.
this is a good one. So, what do you guys think about M80 here?
We can't put him in B. So
I forget what I because I already did my tier list. I completely forget where I put them. I think I put them. I think I put them
They're
A.
they're not S. So it's either between A and C. I guess A. I don't want to put
A
him
and C.
Forget B.
You're gonna go B.
B.
I think they could be a strong A team. I think that core is very strong. I'm put them at A.
Okay.
Heard.
Scars.
Another happy team.
We can put them at C.
C.
We'll put him at C.
Yeah.
C is the happy tier.
He's just all A back. Okay,
We have Secret, which is also an interesting roster. Savage, Zoom, Adrian, Mowgli, and Noah. With who's the coach? Oh, still Twister.
I don't know.
I think either B, A, or B.
Okay.
A or B.
Yeah, maybe B.
Yeah.
Heard.
Put him in B.
SSG, I
S-
think, is to be a strong team A.
A. Go.
PSG Talon, I think D.
D. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially after
W7M,
this Fabian.
I think probably A.
A. Okay.
And then Wildcard. You know, I think we all know how I feel about Wildcard.
Yeah. Okay, they're going to D. Okay, are there any changes we want to make now that we have the full set?
Yeah. Are we like locked into going 4 for each? Because in that case, we need to move one from B to happy and then one from A to S.
I mean, we can do it for content. This will be the real tier list, and then we'll just.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's do S first, or S and A. Let's move someone. Who do you think would, I guess, beat any of those teams? In my opinion, I think it's between. I don't know. I don't think W7M because no they did announce that they're adding Palu.
Yeah. Palu for Dash, and then Dash
Yeah.
is going to the best team in the world.
Who would you put, Mossy?
For S,
Mhm. From A, or somebody else. Doesn't have to be A.
I'm kind of torn, like you said, between Fury or W7M. Probably W7M here.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
And then B to happy.
Ooh,
think
I think it's got to be between the two EU teams.
Yeah.
Fnatic or Secret.
I think it's gonna be Fnatic
Yeah.
to happy tier.
I agree. I like because the thing is, I think
them back with the APAC teams.
like-
happy.
like before they made their changes, they were like not good, and now that they made a change, it's like I don't know. It's not a huge improvement. It's not also like bad. They didn't get worse. It's like it's just purely based on whether they perform or not.
Grade.
Yeah, I think it's one of those events where we're gonna have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. And I don't
But
know.
yeah, actually, I feel like Fnatic or Secret could flip pretty easily.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Malta series. Fnatic beat them 2-1. Then Secret lost to Ents, but Fnatic lost 2-3 in the grand final. So
Yeah.
it could be either or.
Yeah, I think this is a good tier list. I like this. I like where we have it. Actually I do just want to ask one thing. Do you think, obviously because you haven't really touched on it, and this is just pure like speculation, do you think CJX will change on whether or not top teams will continue to be top teams? Like, are we gonna have okay, Falcons will be up there. I don't care. Mechanically they're fine. But I guess teams with like less mechanical players, do you think they'll still be able to consistently be up the top, or do you think CJX will kind of force them to change or just go down?
I think with the addition of Siege X, the primary things about Siege X is number one, bug issues. Let's say T-Brow, all
Yeah.
that, the repel change, the
Yeah.
graphics U-Haul, and the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I think fundamentally at the core, I don't think Siege changes too much. The only big thing, noticeable thing, is going to be the bank phase, and that's if they keep that throughout the rest of the year. So I think when it comes to like teams transferring over to CJX, I don't think there's gonna be too much. We just have to see what they keep and what they don't keep, and how the build is. We might find out the build's really good, or unfortunately really
Okay.
bad. So I guess too early to call.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna ask this because I know you have the information. I'm not gonna ask you to reveal the information, but with the new ban changes, do you think it affects how the IGL and coach role operate?
Yes, yes. I think it's gonna be coaches are gonna be way more impactful. And the IGL, I feel like it's gonna be more impactful from the coaching to the actual players.
Okay.
I think the IGL will relatively stay the same in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest difference is the coaching can have a lot more impact in what can happen. So.
Okay. Okay. Again, yeah, we it kind of sucks that you have this information but you can't tell us. But I mean, we'll find out eventually. Hopefully, maybe they don't like release anything until the day of. But is there anything else you had, Irish?
Oh yeah, I had a few.
Okay.
I had a few
Ooh.
outro questions. Actually, just one. Do you want to remain as like an analyst assistant coach and just kind of help out and kind of move up as far as like being with stronger and stronger teams and kind of, or trying to like stay with C9 and kind of like build a team around that as an assistant coach? Or is the end goal for Mossy to be Mossy dot something under the head coach role?
I think for me right now, I'm kind of in a position where um, I'm happy with my role, and that question just comes down to not only how do we perform as a team, through this event and through the stage, and then if we make a major or if we make EWC. I think that kind of really determines on like how you do performance-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has a lot to play. So, but if I had to pick and choose, I'm pretty happy where I am. I love working, with that current core. I've always been happy with every roster, especially LG. LG was a really fun time. So, working with Vivid again, me and him have really good, we understand each other really well. So, I think that's helped. That's helped foster a good culture
Mm-hmm.
with whatever team we're on. I think it's like the biggest thing that I feel like I bring to the table, like understanding like what a good culture for a team is, and then just keeping everyone, on pace, on tempo, all the uh, all the extra stuff. I feel like I do well. And then in terms of strategy, me and him both have a wealth of knowledge, and that same with our core as well. So in short, I'm pretty happy where I am now, but we'll see how the future plays out. So.
Well, before we send things off, I'm just gonna give you the floor. Shout out anybody, send a message. Shout out yourself. That's also a really good idea.
Yeah, no. First of all, thanks for having me. This is a really fun time. Shout out to my team, of course, and all the fans that watch. They make this thing possible. Whether you're a casual fan or you show up to all the events. From casters to producers to content creators who help support the game. So, and last thing is when the skin comes out, buy the skin. So that help the players directly. So we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But no, it's
yeah.
been a
There you
fun
go.
time, and glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That has been Mossy. You can. What is your Twitter at?
At
Mossysaurus.
Mosasaurus, I gotta
At
change it though. So
Mossysaurus, yeah. And then we got Goose Yaps, and we got a thin Irish dude. It's not Irish. Don't type in Irish. It won't find him. Put A then T, then you eventually will find it. But yeah, this has been Siege Shot Call, and we'll see you guys next time.
awesome. Thank you so much, guys.